kids is how I met your mother.
Hello, my fellow hunters. How are you doing after that scandalous intro? My word. Woo! Alright, look, I was having a little think the other day about the whole Garuga being the product, the spawn of an unholy union twixt Yian and Rathian. One that Rathalos has still not recovered from to this day.
Let's go kill something.
And while it's never been confirmed nor denied, it's certainly something that I very much choose to believe in, because I think it's a lot of fun to imagine. A monstrous version of the liger, the tiger lion, that is absolutely massive. And this idea of a hybrid that is the product of, well, let's say, imaginative breeding is quite a fun little playground for coming up with some badass and just plain fantastical monsters. Because let's be honest, what could be more fantastical than it's Yian, but it's purple and does poison backflips like Rathian. Oh! Though I do jest, it is really awesome to have the kind of, well, best, most powerful, vicious, aggressive, badass bird wyvern, and it be based on the, well, most least threatening one. I very much am a fan of Yian Garuga, but I think we can take it so much further. And I also think that a hybrid in this manner would be a great little addition if we ever get one, or perhaps even need one, to the lineup of alternate monster types. You know, you got your base monster, you got your subspecies, you got your deviant, you got your rare species, you got your variant. So why not your hybrid? Letting the devs, well, cleverly reuse old monsters, but in an entirely new inventive way that allows for a fusion of themes and abilities. So, of course, the main caveat is you have to choose pairs of monsters that you could reasonably see this happening with. So, you can't be like, Sora Magdaros and Kirin! I require Lightning Mountain! What the fuck? Because, well, you know, that would be pretty cool. They are very much different in, let's say, size and general physiology. So, to begin with then, let's keep it a little bit, well, tamer, with a fusion twixt Coral Pookie and Nightshade Palumu. Yes, indeed. These two are very similar in nature, a flying wyvern and a bird wyvern. I mean, the Rathian Yian example, we know that can very much work, and this way we get a really fun result, especially as we are merging subspecies here that already have augmented abilities, so we get to compound that, and the result is terrifying. Or at least one imagining of it is, but how I see it is you have your fluffy Palumui body, but the more reptilian exterior of the Pookie, and you have this control of wind while you're still blasting out the water. A mix of both a water sac and a air sac that allows these creatures to do what they do. So you would be getting hosed down by the Paluki, and the water itself would contain the sleep drug that is produced, and you would hit the deck for a little bit of while being blasted away by the pressure of the water. So I like to imagine, instead of just a calm cloud that has you collapse, the attack itself sends you reeling, does loads of damage, you are being, well, blasted, but when you arrive and you hit the deck and you land, you don't get up because you've fallen asleep from the dousing you've just gotten. And then he still has the wind to help propel the water even further, maybe move it around the battlefield in pools like a little bit of Namiel-esque inspiration, and you have this just awful yet fantastic mix of battlefield control with sleep, with water blight that comes from this very much nocturnal, dark fusion of these two creatures. You could bump this up to tier 2 quite easily and have it be just something that is so beautifully irritating to fight. So I am all for this one. I think it would be lovely in the most, well, terrifying of ways. Next up then, let's go for Ebony Odogaron and Toby Kadachi. Two very similarly shaped fanged wyverns. Why the hell not? And in this case, we are fusing two of the most agile creatures in the New World. In fact, if you take away Elder Dragons, they probably just are the most agile creatures in the New World. As fast and swift as Nagakuga is, you can't compete with the lighter frame that these two possess as they jump from ledge to ledge and tree to tree. So already we have a baby with such impeccable grace and agility that's going to be really making it hard for you to even keep the camera on them, though in a way that's managed to not just be pure irritating. And then that little mix of visuals might be on the nightmare fuel scale again. But it means you have a little mini version of sparking electricity infused with the dragon energy in the ebony. So we're talking a much less powerful, much tamer version of something like White Fatalis's Red Dragon Lightning. The black fur crackling with the sparks as his body exhumes the dragon, and it mixes into just this cloud that supercharges him and powers his physical attacks. Maybe perhaps again like a mini version of how Elatron himself uses dragon energy to enhance his body and his muscles and pump him with just raw might. So you combine that kind of shocking impact with something that is so fast, jumpy, and generally nimble as you would imagine an Odogaron Toby fusion to be. And you have this dweller of both just dark, rotten valley, but also something that could torment the very treetops themselves. And this one you might be thinking, well, how would they meet exactly? Well, apart from, of course, Ebony being an invader and could show up in the forest, the Guiding Lands kind of makes any given combination of monsters meeting at least possible, so hey, you can thank the Guiding Lands for a bunch of freaky new monster babies!
You're welcome.
Next up then, something at least a little bit more on the wholesome side of things, perhaps. We have a lovely Radabon with acidic glavenus, and this I think is just fantastic. Both brute wyverns, of course, so in theory compatible and in line to make something truly breathtaking and life-taking, because there's a lot of acid everywhere and you will melt. So then this, well, actually I guess we should probably name it Radabon and acidic glavenus. You know what? Cotton, you got this one.
Acidicra glavdobanus.
Thanks. I really deeply hated that. Either way, imagine a Radabon then as the base, but the tar is infused with the acid. It's bubbling and boiling over the surface. You can see it like a classic swamp tar pit, but on his body, and it leaves droplets that as he rolls around. His trail is corrosive, and if you walk over it, you take damage, but it's also still got his sticky properties. But because it's acidic, the bones that he pick up kind of dissolve and break down and melt into it, giving it a much tougher texture and giving him a much harder coating to get through. He can use it in great splashes and globs and really just coat the room very quickly in this much longer lasting acid, because acidic glavenus goes away quite quickly. It's a thin coating, gets absorbed into the ground, but when you have an entire living tar pit turning the, well, zone you're in into very much the same, and that tar is incredibly deadly and corrosive, you're in for a big problem. A very much zone controlling monster that uses this endless supply of just caustic substance to limit and restrict you in what you can do and how you can combat it. He can slam down his chin as he does and then just think like Barroth's mud piles, but they are acidic tar. I absolutely adore the imagining of that and think you would have a very neat way of having to play it. And if you fell into one of those, well, mud, tar, acid piles, not only would you get defense down, you take a chunk of damage, start steaming, and you just have this lovely concoction to make for one hell of an encounter. Next up then, let's go to the Elder Dragons and talk Nergigante with his eye on Velkhana. Or as I like to call it, Nergana! Okay, I've not said that out loud yet until right here, so I take it back. I don't like to call it that. In fact, I'll throw that one over to you guys. But this one I find fascinating. What would a combination twixt Nergigante's regenerative prowess and Velkhana's icy growth and manipulation actually look like? Well, I think the answer would be something breathtakingly spectacular. Having that spike sprouting, but having it coated in icy crystalline might would be simply beautiful. Having these spikes fly out, perhaps like they do with Ruiner, but shatter in the air into shards of ice that look like fairy dust reflecting the light, but at the same time jagged and very much deadly. Having to shatter a layer of ice before actually getting to shatter the spikes, perhaps something that would kind of resemble Nergi, but maybe thinner, a little bit faster, more live and agile, like Velkhana tends to be. Perhaps more about that aerial combat. Perhaps he can grow spikes everywhere on his body, made of pure ice where they're not found naturally that they usually grow. You'd have yourself one hell of a death ball of icy fury coming at you. He could get his Rajang on and do a sort of spinning crash that sends these icicles just exploding outward everywhere. Combining that physical might with an ice growing twist, well, you get the gist. It sounds like something that should not be missed, and I very much am a fan of it. It seems like a match made in heaven, and all around would be pretty cool. And maybe you take away the kind of breath attacks, don't actually give it that kind of range, just have the ice as almost armor, sort of shaped and manipulated armor. Maybe play up the Velkhana trait of growing a new tail out of ice if you cut off the old one, but as a more intentional, offensive, multi-used tactic throughout the entire fight. That's how this Nergi-infused Velkhana baby would make it happen. And you could end up with some spectacular set-piece attacks that really just cater to the battlefield. You could just have the paws of it leave these icy patches wherever he walks, and the floor starts to become, again, very much more enclosed. Let me know what you think of that one. It might be a little bit too out there, maybe not a whole new species-ish level, maybe more variant-y, deviant-y, but, well, we shall see. Finally then, how could I not bring up my main man, Daddy Bracky? And who is going to be Brachydios's enhancement? Or indeed, who is Brachydios going to enhance? Well, the answer, Tigrex. Oh yes, now I realise this might be the strangest pairing, given a technical flying wyvern and brute wyvern, but I mean, have you seen the turf war? Exactly. And look, this would just be an absolute barrel of fun. And by barrel, I mean barreling forward. And by that, I mean a train of slimy destruction. Because, you know, Brachydios' fist pound move where he just walks slowly towards you, leaving the puddles or explosions if he's enraged. Well, imagine a slimed up Tigrex hybrid that does his charging around the place, but in doing so leaves a trail and spreads slime, and it's just a wall of explosions. Inherently, you're not too far off Molten Tigrex when you're talking about this, but it's got that little slimy twist. Inherently, I just kind of want to go for the angle of a pseudo-wyvern type shape with something as unique and potent as that slime symbiosis, and having something that moves as much as Tigrex do is the way to go. We've seen what happens, as I said, it's not that far off Molten Tigrex when a Tigrex is exposed to that kind of heat and environment. So hey, maybe you could say this is twixt Molten Tigrex and a Brachydios and really turn it up to 11. But if that is a little bit too molten-y for you, well then I love the idea of a Brachyuragon. A Bruragon? A Uradios? Uradios! I kind of like Uradios, but either way, we have the Uragon as the base with the Brachydios infusion, and then when he rolls around the place, you have a full-on trail of slime. We've only ever seen slime in puddles, in pools that pop and explode. So how would it react to being layered in one continuous long strip of it? Would it all explode at the same time? Would it explode down the line? Would it be like a fuse that just slowly follows the pattern Uragon did? But imagine him doing his roll, back and forth, gaining a little bit more of an agility boost from Brachydios heritage, and him just lacing the floor with a pattern of slime that then just explodes in the same path that he took. And you kind of have to remember that, or you're going to get caught out by it. Again, you could make it sort of catch the hunters, be harder to move through. You could have the rocks that come up of him explode, but then also send splats of slime everywhere. And again, we kind of just get in a situation where we have a slime zone controller that just coats the entire zone in the stuff with his constant moving around. I basically, all it sounds like I'm saying is, I want to put Brachydios with monsters that can make maximum amount of slime everywhere, okay? Please! And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that! Don't judge me! I know what I like! Either way, that seems very much quite appealing to have a rolling monstrosity of explosive slime. Oh, imagine the chin slam and the amount it would release. And let's be honest, it would be a great way to show that they have more than made up.
Help me! I don't want to go.
Alright guys, I would love to know your thoughts on these. I realize a few were a little bit silly, but genuinely, the idea of that kind of hybrid system being the next category of monster, I think has merit. I think that's fun. I think there's some good design space to play around here. And indeed, I encourage you all to. I would love to know down below some that you've come up with that you think would be good. I always very much enjoy reading your ideas. But for now, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and I will see you soon. A goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.